Alright, so the next poem I want to do is by Kristen Stewart. It's called My Heart is a Wiffle Ball / Freedom Pole. Just to set where this poem occurred, the article where I read it, Kristen said that she was she wrote the poem on a road trip to Marfa, Texas with a friend, when she was with a friend. So to keep in mind, they're basically in the car when this poem is being written. So it goes like this. I reared digital moonlight. You read its clock, scrawled neon across that black. Kismetly, ubiquitously crestfallen, thrown down to strafe your foothills. I'll suck the bones, pretty. Your nature perforated the abrasive organ pumps, spray painted everything known to man. Stream rushes through and all out into something, whilst the crackling stare-down sun snuck through our windows, boarded up. He hit your flint face and it sparked, and I bellowed and you parked. We reached Marfa. One honest day up on this freedom pole. Devil's not done digging. He's speaking in tongues all along the panhandle, and this pinning erosion is getting dust in my eyes, and I'm drunk on your morsels, and so I look down the line. Your every twitch, hand drum salutes mine. Okay. So part of the reason I really like this poem is because a lot of the poetry that I read is written to express like a single or one idea or one really strong feeling to the reader. But I think this poem is really not written for the reader. I think it's written for Kristen and potentially the friend that she went on the road trip with. And so I really like that bit about it. The other thing to note here is I think because it's written for the reader, I mean it's written for the author, it's written for Kristen herself really, it is very abstract, and so it's hard to interpret. Even though she might have an idea of what she's talking about when she's writing the poem, it's not clear, I think, to readers exactly what she means. So I'll do my best to analyze it, but I mean, I can't hedge my bets enough, just because if I start with a bad foundation, then I'm going to be wrong about everything. But nonetheless, I will try. Well, the other thing to note is, unfortunately, because it is so abstract, what can easily happen is, rather than understanding the original intent of the poem, it'll kind of become about my life, or the person who's interpreting it's life, and I'm afraid that is potentially what's happening when I'm interpreting the poem. But what am I going to do? So to analyze it, I think it's important to get I think the title has a lot to do with understanding the rest of the poem, which is My Heart is a Wiffle Ball / Freedom Pole. So the My Heart is a Wiffle Ball part, if you've ever whacked a wiffle ball, you'll notice that it flies, it'll fly straight for a bit and then kind of curve, like do a hard left or hard right. And I think this is potentially what Kristen was going for when she uses the wiffle ball analogy. Basically, her heart's on a particular trajectory, then all of a sudden it's throws her a tough curveball. And I think if you interpret it this way, you can make sense of the rest of the poem. One might think that it has to do with like the hollowness or the plastic of the wiffle ball, but to me that seems much less likely. Also, in the article I read, she mentioned something about following your heart no matter where it goes. So to me, this seems, it makes the idea of a wiffle ball curving seem to make a lot of sense. Also, it's not like, you could use an analogy like a flower or something, like my heart's floating like a feather through the wind or something, but this isn't really, I think, what she's trying to capture, because it's not that it's all over the place. It does have some sort of trajectory, and I think that makes the wiffle ball a good analogy. But so keeping So now to the content of the poem. I reared digital moonlight. You read its clock, scrawled neon across that black. Now here, this is very specific, which makes it quite possible that my interpretation is incorrect. But I think what she could be talking about is like just she took out her phone or an iPad or something like this, and her friend in the car is now reading it. And this setting, it's probably nighttime, and you know they're in the car. I think they're probably parked at this point, but they might be driving. But anyways, it's obviously a very romantic setting that occurs. You kismetly, ubiquitously crestfallen. So kismetly is like fatefully, like almost like sent down from above. And I think that's what that line is going for. Crestfallen, thrown down to strafe your foothills. So potentially, what she's talking about here is her friend is like sent down from like a higher place almost to strafe your foothills. In other words, that you're, I think she could be referring to a higher power. I also want to introduce the theme here that I think might have been an original intent of the poem, also, although I am skeptical because it could be my thinking and not the original intent, but the theme of kind of like a hell or a horrible place. And that's what I think she's talking about when she says thrown down to strafe your foothill. So she's basically saying the world is kind of like a hell. And in that context, the next line, I'll suck the bones pretty, I think could make quite a bit of sense, especially I think what she could be saying here is that it's like the one sentence in the poem where she is expressing what she wants to do for this person. It's an expression of love. I think she's saying, I want to make this hell of a world beautiful. I'll suck the bones pretty. Again, I'm skeptical of my own interpretation on that, but I think that's very possible. And then we kind of, I think, a little bit of shift into how Kristen is feeling. Your nature perforated the abrasive organ pumps. So I think if you ever watch Kristen act, you can see that she's obviously a very emotional person. It's like the air around her is too thin and she can't get enough. So I think what she's saying here is basically your nature is calming her. And then spray painted everything known to man. So I think this line, there's other indications in the poem that would make this make sense as well, but I actually think the spray painted everything known to man, she could be talking about everything could actually be herself, and basically a covering up of other stuff when she's with this person. And the everything known to man, I think, to me, it makes it more likely that the friend that's in her car is actually a female friend, because it would be more probable that she would use that. It would be more clever to use that phrase, everything known to man, if this person's a female and the covering is happening to her, happening to Kristen. So stream rushes through and all out into something. So I think, again, this is, I can't feel this, but something with the emotions rushing through her, and the crackling stare down sun snuck through our window, boarded up. So I think now we're shifting away from her, Kristen's emotions to actually just what's happened, what's going on around her, which is the sun is coming through their windows, boarded up. So it's interesting because I actually think they potentially were parked when the sun came through their windows, and they basically hit the road again after the sun came up. But she says, he hit your flint face, the sun hit her friend's flint face, and it sparked, and I bellowed, and you parked. But so I think she actually could. It says we parked, but it wouldn't make sense that they were driving with the windows boarded up. So I actually think she's using parked in kind of a different sense. But regardless, I could be wrong in that, but the picture is they're in the car, the sun comes up, we reach Marfa, they reach Marfa. One honest day up on this freedom pole. So I think, again, this is obviously an important part of the poem. I think what she's talking about here is finally getting to express, to feel her real love, which she doesn't get to feel that often. And also, again, if you take in the theme of kind of like a hellish world, the freedom pole is kind of a lifting up above that hellish world. That could be an interpretation. I'll put it that way. I'll stay up on this freedom pole. The devil's not done digging. He's speaking in tongues all along the panhandle. So again, after they reach Marfa, you can see a shift it shifts from the past tense to the present tense. So now everything's in present tense. So you can see that. I think it seems likely that at this point they're driving home from Marfa or away from Marfa, and so now everything's in present tense, and it appears that they're driving through some kind of like part of the panhandle of Texas, basically. And so as far as understanding the devil's not done digging, he's speaking in tongues all along the panhandle, I think this brings the poem entirely together, which, in my opinion, at this point you realize that now she's feeling bad about this love. She's feeling bad about this love. So I think it's some sort of forbidden love that she in some way she feels that she shouldn't have. So this is really important, and I think it makes sense of the entire poem. So the title, you can see that her heart is basically swerving on her. So she wasn't expecting this. Her heart swerves on her, and she obviously has very strong feelings for this person. I think it also if her friend is a female, you can also see the kind of the forbidden element of it, and why it might be that she does feel this pinning erosion. She says it doesn't necessarily. It could also be another forbidden love, like it could be a male that she just realized she fell in love with, even though she's supposed to be with somebody else or something. But to me, it makes much more sense if it's female, especially because of the one line, and spray painted everything known to man. This pinning erosion is getting dust in my eye. So I think this is one of the most important lines in the poem, because you can see that she actually makes a decision on what love is important to her. It's the love with this person that she's with now. I mean, the badness she's feeling because for whatever the reason she's not supposed to be with this person, which is my interpretation, or somehow she feels that it's not okay. The pinning erosion is getting dust in my eye. So obviously the dust in my eyes is not that serious of a thing. I'm willing to wipe it out. She's recognizing the love that's important to her. So basically, I think that a decision is being made, and I think that is one of the most important things when you're dealing in the matters of the heart. Then the other thing I like about the whole the devil's not done digging, he's speaking in tongues all along the panhandle, the pinning erosion's getting dust in my eye, is because she draws a nice kind of metaphor to the landscape that I think they're driving through when they're driving through kind of part of Texas. I picture dust balls going out like an old western type place. So I like that. And then at the end here, and I'm drunk on your morsels, and so I look down the line. Your every twitch hand drum salutes. Your every twitch hand drum salutes mine. This is really hard to do. I think it has something to do with, obviously she's drunk on her morsels. Everything that this person is saying is, she finds tantalizing, and so I look down the line, just looking to the future. And I think that your every twitch hand drum salutes mine potentially has to do with something with them being, her feeling in sync with this person. I can't do it. I'm not. That one's really tough to do. That's my best kind of feeling that I'm getting on So yeah, I think that's all I've got on that front. Let's see, how about a dirty limerick? The lass I brought home was a prize, with an alluring set of bright blue eyes. Her breasts, so well kept, were what I'd expect, but her penis was quite a surprise. Thanks.